This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Good evening. Not since 1964 have the United Mine Workers and the soft coal industry reached agreement without a strike. 3 years ago, a 111-day strike caused widespread layoffs and production cutbacks. And today, just 24 hours after negotiators expressed optimism about a settlement, another strike seems unavoidable. Eric Ingberg reports.
With the talks so badly stalled over such issues as work rules and pensions that no further meetings were even scheduled, Mine Workers President Sam Church set the wheels in motion for a strike.
If we don't receive something from them in the next hour and a half, then I'm going to send the bargaining council home.
The call from the industry bargaining unit, the Bituminous Coal Operators Association, never came. Although both sides proclaimed a willingness to resume talks, Church conceded that with the 39-member bargaining council headed home, there was no way to prevent at least a short work stoppage. Travel times, union contract procedures, and the tradition of no contract, no work guaranteed it. A shutdown would halt production of about half the nation's coal, generally in the East and Midwest. It would come at a time when power companies and other coal users have large stockpiles available, weakening the union's hand. 20,000 miners are already out of work, laid off by slack demand in some parts of the country. Now, all 160,000 UMW miners will lay down their tools at 12:01 a.m. March 27th. And the reputation for labor management hostility both sides had hoped to change this year will be intact. Eric Ingberg, CBS News, Washington.
President Reagan went up to Capitol Hill today for breakfast and a budget cut huddle with Republican congressional leaders. While there, the president came down hard on the Congressional Budget Office, which says Mr. Reagan's estimate of federal spending may be billions of dollars too low. But as Phil Jones reports, that wasn't the main message Mr. Reagan wanted to get across today.
It was Ronald Reagan who decided to bring his presidency to the Hill today, since meetings with members of Congress at the White House had become so routine that publicity was hard to get. He had no trouble getting attention today. On the way up the steps, he started a minor controversy by declaring phony a congressional report that his budget target is off by $25 billion. He later softened his criticism, saying the report was based on older, more pessimistic assumptions than he is using. And inside, it was mostly harmony.
We want to tell you that we're behind you. We think your program is a good program. We think the country's behind you, and we're going to pass it.
I think the very evidence of our meeting here this morning, in the eyes of the public this early in the morning, is an indication that we are prepared to work together.
The president reportedly had one other message, that he does not want to seek further cuts by altering the scheduled cost of living increase in Social Security benefits. But there was also a message to the president today, that not all of his proposed cuts in nutritional funds will survive. Some monies will be restored in this area, but Republicans pledged support for his overall spending cut goal. And that is what the president accentuated.
I think that the leadership we met with is dedicated to trying to keep that package together and not let them tear it apart and rip off part here and part there.
Democrats were not included in the meeting with the president today, so it was easier for them to criticize. And House Speaker Thomas O'Neill did just that. He accused the Reagan administration of going down the wrong road, and O'Neill said that the president is enough of a politician to know that he's not going to get all of his program. Phil Jones, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The Senate Budget Committee and others today got down to the business of cutting federal spending along the bottom line. Among other things, the Budget Committee approved cutbacks in railroad funds, maritime and highway safety funds, and juvenile justice programs. The government issued 2 economic reports today with the kind of numbers analysts call unencouraging. The Federal Reserve Board said the nation's industrial production dropped 0.5% last month, the first decline after 7 months of smaller and smaller gains. And the Commerce Department said that Americans' personal income rose just 0.7% in February, the smallest increase since last summer. Economists stopped short of actually predicting a recession, but said these figures indicate a slowdown in the economy may lie just ahead. New housing starts took a steep dip of 25% in February from January's activity. A home building industry spokesman blamed high mortgage rates. Permits for future construction also were off, down 6.9% from January, an indication that the building slump will continue a while. The stock market was way down today.
People across America, from New York to LA, they're leaving their cars at home and going the Greyhound way. No need to worry about driving when there's someone you can trust.
Next trip, leave your car at home and your troubles behind.
Go Greyhound and leave the driving to us. Mazola, corn goodness.
Our braves canoed long distances to remote villages, bringing baskets filled with the goodness of maize, corn. Today, this goodness, corn oil goodness, is essential to Mazola margarine. So Mazola has no cholesterol, naturally, plus vitamins A and D, and a fresh, delicious flavor, naturally. Taste Mazola margarine. It gets goodness from maize.
Mazola, corn goodness.
Soviet, East German, and Polish troops today began spring military exercises in Poland. It is not known how many troops are involved, but the number is believed to be far fewer than the 25,000 that the United States State Department had predicted. A department spokesman who had warned of grave concern about the exercises said today that concern now is somewhat less. At the Army Supply Depot in Corpus Christi, Texas today, an overhauled Huey helicopter similar to the ones used in Vietnam was loaded into a cargo plane for shipment to El Salvador, part of the American military aid to that country. El Salvador will get 10 of the helicopters, which will be reassembled there. While none of these helicopters comes equipped as a gunship, the United States is selling El Salvador equipment necessary for turning them into fighting machines. The U.S. Embassy in San Salvador was sprayed with automatic rifle fire today by 2 gunmen in a speeding car. Damage was slight. There were no injuries. It was the second such attack on the embassy in 2 weeks. El Salvador's civil war often invades the capital, but it is in the countryside that the war is hottest. Bob Fall has our report.
They are alone. 2 government soldiers patrolling a hillside where the guerrillas are strong. And though the area has been pounded by government artillery fire, the soldiers, armed only with rifles and hand grenades, must be alert, because in this dense terrain, the enemy is hard to see, and the enemy too is armed.
And they has a good armament, just .50 and .30.
Machine guns.
Machine guns, yeah.
And again, the enemy strikes quickly. This young soldier, a lieutenant, killed when shot in the neck at close range by a young rebel who fled. The lieutenant's body is brought into the government camp in a CBS News van, which the Army used because no other vehicles were available. Later, the field commander makes sure that artillery shelling in the area will be halted so his patrols won't be hit. Returning, the patrols find a guerrilla map of the area, pinpointing booby-trapped houses and describing the guerrillas' organization. Soon, the government resumes firing, but by now the guerrillas themselves have fled, moving on to fight elsewhere. Their casualties, if any, unknown. And the dead soldier is flown home for burial, his name added to the list of the many thousands who have been killed here in the last year and a half. Bob Fall, CBS News, San Salvador.
CBS News will present a special report on El Salvador tonight at 11:30, 10:30 Central Time. A leftist group in San Jose, Costa Rica, claimed responsibility for today's rocket attack on a U.S. Embassy van carrying 3 Marine guards and their driver. One of the Marines suffered 2 broken legs, but is reported to be otherwise all right. The other 3 in the van and a passerby all suffered superficial cuts and bruises. The leftist group also claimed responsibility for a bombing of the Honduran embassy in San Jose. There were no injuries there. Senator Alan Cranston of California, the assistant Democratic leader, warned today that Iraq and Pakistan are on the brink of becoming the latest members of the once exclusive nuclear weapons club. Cranston said that Iraq is on a crash program to develop a weapons capability, but added there is no evidence that actual bomb design has been done there. As for Pakistan, Cranston said it is likely that country will be able to make nuclear weapons by the end of next year. Secretary of State Haig, asked about this, declined to comment beyond saying the United States always is concerned about the spread of nuclear weapons.
We're showing Tom that 1 ounce of whole wheat total has 100% of the recommended daily allowance of these 9 important vitamins plus iron. Tom, what cereal did you have for breakfast?
Cornflakes.
How do you think 1 ounce of cornflakes will compare with total?
I don't know. Total looks tough to beat.
Let's compare.
Total's much higher.
If you want 100% of these 9 vitamins and iron, get Total.
That's a real difference.
That's the total difference.
Hey, no. Say bye.
Oh, it's coming along nicely, June.
Yeah, but not for me. My doctor says too much caffeine makes me edgy.
Well, why not try Sanka brand decaffeinated coffee?
I'll take real coffee.
Sanka brand's 100% real coffee. You'll love it.
I do.
June, the show is a big hit.
Well, I'm really hitting it off with Sanka brand.
Sanka brand. Enjoy your coffee and enjoy yourself.
To most of us, the name of Carol Burnett is linked forever with comedy and music. But there was no laughter in the air today when she testified in a Los Angeles courtroom. Linda Douglas was there.
As she arrived at the courthouse this morning, Carol Burnett said she was ready to take the stand, to play the role for which she'd been preparing 5 years, the real-life part of a celebrity injured by false gossip. Burnett claims the National Enquirer libeled her by falsely reporting that she had a loud argument with Henry Kissinger in a Washington restaurant, later behaving boisterously and spilling wine on a diner. On the stand, the entertainer explained the story was particularly painful because her parents were both alcoholics, something she blames for their early deaths. When she learned of the Enquirer's story, she said she began to cry and shake and was overcome by anger.
It portrays me as being drunk. It portrays me as being rude. It portrays me as being uncaring. It portrays me as being physically abusive. It is disgusting, and it is a pack of lies. I couldn't believe that anybody could sit down and make that up.
Burnett said she's afraid the story will follow her for the rest of her life.
Does that mean I can never laugh in a restaurant again? I can never be myself and enjoy myself again?
Lawyers for the Enquirer claim Burnett was not hurt by the article. They will also argue the tabloid is protected by the First Amendment.
The court has said that we, in the interest of having speech, we will protect at certain times even erroneous speech.
Tomorrow, the Enquirer will argue it is a newspaper, not a magazine. Under California law, a newspaper is protected from libel claims if it prints a retraction, which the Enquirer did in this case. Linda Douglas, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Britain's late Duke of Windsor, who was Prince Charles's predecessor as the Prince of Wales, yielded to political pressure and gave up riding horses after falling off a number of them. Prince Charles was spilled by his horse 4 days ago, and while no one is urging him to give up riding, a similar fate may befall him. John Blackstone reports.
It is called the National Hunt Festival, one of the prime events in the steeplechase season in Britain. Last year, one of the winners here was a horse called Good Prospect. Today, Good Prospect was back on the National Hunt course, but this time as a royal horse, carrying a relatively inexperienced steeplechaser, Prince Charles. The heir to the throne and a one-time winning horse were doing well together until fence number 8. The Prince of Wales was unhurt, but showed just a little royal disgust. Last Friday, though, when he took an almost identical spill, he showed some royal determination, saying one must learn from mistakes. His fiancée, Lady Diana Spencer, was not evident in the crowd that saw today's mistake. John Blackstone, CBS News, Cheltenham, England.
You may not be able to figure out the answer to the puzzle posed by that diagram over my shoulder. As it turned out, neither could the people who make up college entrance examinations. But a high school boy figured it out, and admitting they were wrong, the testers raised scores for 250,000 students. Chris Kelly reports.
Say that amount.
Daniel Lowen was among the thousands of high school students last fall to take the preliminary scholastic aptitude test. It was the standard sort of multiple choice exam, except for a question near the end. How many exposed faces result from a solid that is created out of two different pyramids? 17-year-old Dan Lowen thought the answer was so simple that it must have been a trick question.
When I saw that I had it wrong, I was surprised, so I took it home and built the model, and my dad proved it for me, and we wrote in and said that we disagreed with their answer.
So they sent their findings to the creators of the test, the Educational Testing Service in Princeton, New Jersey.
We've had this particular test question reviewed by a large number of people, both inside Educational Testing Service and outside, and all of those reviews failed to turn up with the kind of solution that this particular student did.
But mathematically, Daniel Lowen's solution of 5 faces was correct. The College Board officials conceded that after admitting the test question was ambiguous. Fact is, Dan Lowen outwitted the experts.
Instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they counted 4, 5, 6, 7. And that was where the problem was.
Is math your career aim?
I doubt it. More English, humanities.
Why those subjects?
They're more interesting than just cold math.
Too bad. Some people at the College Board exam headquarters are so impressed with the 17-year-old, they think he would be good at reviewing tests. Chris Kelly, CBS News, Princeton, New Jersey.
Education Secretary Terrell Bell confirmed today that there's a temporary freeze now on processing applications for the government's main program offering aid to college students. Bell says the requests for grants for school terms beginning next fall are temporarily on hold until Congress approves proposed changes in the formula for determining need. The new formula is supposed to save the government about $183 million during 1982. Currently, about 3 million college students, approximately 1 in 4, are receiving the federal grants, ranging up to $1,750 a year.
Old Spice has been putting messages in bottles for years. A message of clean, a message of brisk, an exotic blend of fragrances that communicates a presence unmistakably masculine. The timeless message every woman understands. For as long as men use Old Spice, women get the message.
There are many medications for acid indigestion or heartburn relief. Which one is right for you? For years, Maalox has been recommended most by doctors. Now, the antacid ingredients in here, plus an extra ingredient, are in Maalox Plus tablets. Really pleasant tasting and effective. And Maalox Plus tablets also come in this handy pocket pack that keeps them fresh and sanitary. Maalox Plus for acid indigestion or heartburn relief. But don't just take my word for it. Try Maalox Plus tablets. You'll find you can't do better.
For weeks, a cabinet-level task force has wrestled with and haggled over the problem of competition from Japanese automakers. Now, administration sources say the group has agreed to recommend that Japan be asked to limit voluntarily its car exports to this country. Japanese automobiles accounted for 26% of car sales in the U.S. last year, while domestic car sales were dropping dismally. The vast wilderness of Alaska is a long way from Washington, but not out of reach of the Budget Act. In fact, the Park Service there has been targeted for cuts, leaving fewer dollars to pay for the work of the rangers charged with protecting Alaska's pristine parklands. Terry Drinkwater reports now on their fear of being left out in the cold, a fear not universally shared in Alaska.
Alaska's new national parks are far bigger than all of those in the lower 48 combined. In one, in the towering Aleutian Range around Lake Clark, there are moose and caribou foraging this time of year and dull sheep high above the timberline. A single park, 3.5 million acres in size. Yet, to preserve it, to protect the wildlife from poachers and hunters, there is just one man in a tiny airplane, literally a lone ranger. One of his superiors in Anchorage says it's like trying to protect a Smithsonian-sized museum with just one guard. Environmentalists read the new administration's budget proposals for the Park Service, and they shudder.
The pressures on Alaska wildlife, and on Alaska's resources obviously are becoming tremendous. The Reagan administration obviously is looking at Alaska with great greed, and without adequate protection, we're going to be in trouble.
The newly enlarged Mount McKinley or Denali National Park is by far the most used and abused federal preserve in Alaska.
We have 5.7 million acres and 4 rangers to cover that area. It's essentially 4 people to cover an area about the size of the state of New Jersey. We need aircraft and we need rangers in the air. That's the only way we can cover this territory.
What Superintendent Cunningham has is a dog team. It's a picturesque and traditional way to patrol in this frigid country, but today hardly an effective one. Poachers here and to the north in the vast gates of the Arctic National Park are after fox and other fur. In Anchorage, the winter's work of a skilled trapper can bring $10,000 or more. John Hankey had always supported his Eskimo wife and youngsters as a trapper, subsistence hunter, and guide. But what he now calls the lockup of federal lands, the new parks the Carter administration established last year, changed all of that. He took us along a section of his trap line outside the park, talking bitterly about the rangers.
They have not come to me or anyone else and said, look, we know you got hunting areas in the park, we know you got trap lines in the park, and we're going to try to work something out so you can continue to make a living for the rest of your life or whatever. They have not done that. They just come in with shotguns and say, get out. I've never been a, lawbreaker or anything, and it's extremely hard for me to decide how to react to this.
Tiny Bettles above the Arctic Circle, where Hankey lives, is Reagan country. People here like the news from faraway Washington and Juneau that the rules and laws may be changed again to allow more hunting, trapping, and mining within the parks. Some of what the Carter administration set aside and put off limits could be opened up again. The new park rangers vow to try to get along with those who have lived in and lived off of this foreboding land before they came. But they worry. They liken the cutting of their budget to ice off an Alaskan glacier. One big chunk of enforcement money they'd hoped for falls away, and then another. They are resigned to a lean budget for at least the next 4 years. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, in the Brooks Range of Alaska.
Paul Daffy Dean, the quiet half of the most colorful brother act in baseball history, died today of a heart attack in Springdale, Arkansas. He was 67. With his flamboyant brother, J. Hannah Dizzy Dean, Paul Dean starred as a St. Louis Cardinal pitcher in the mid-1930s. In 1934, after the brothers combined for 49 victories, Dizzy predicted me and Paul would win each 2 games from the Detroit Tigers in the World Series. And they did.
I refinished this beautiful piece all by myself, and I can't even change a light bulb.
A pro wanted $300 to refinish this. I did it myself for $15.
Formby's furniture refinisher can make a believer out of you because it works unlike anything you've ever seen. It dissolves old varnish lacquer shellac without stripping, sanding, or scraping. With my furniture refinisher, it's a pleasure to create a treasure.
Homer Formby. No one knows wood as good. This month, many stores have special values on Formby products.
It's probably no surprise that most automobile accidents are caused by careless drivers. A reckless few who push up the cost of everyone's insurance. So, if you're soaked by somebody else's carelessness, talk to your independent Safeco agent. After all, it's the people we don't insure that make Safeco such a good deal for those we do.
Not all of President Reagan's day involved the spending of the green. There was the wearing of it over lunch and a serenade at the Irish Embassy. Nor was it just a gala for the Republican Irish. Senator Edward Kennedy was there to mark St. Patrick's Day too, as was House Speaker Thomas O'Neill. Not to be outdone, President Reagan rose to the rostrum brandishing a jar full of green jelly beans. 100,000 people marched, 1 million looked on, and a funny thing happened to Charles Osgood on his way to the St. Patrick's Day parade in New York.
Thanks for calling Dial-A-Joke. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Casey found himself very late one night in London in the underground subway station. He walked along to the escalator, and on the escalator is written, "Dogs must be carried on the escalator." And he thought, good Lord, where am I going to find a dog at this hour of the night?
St. Patrick's Day, or any other day of the year for that matter, Dial-A-Joke keeps operating 24 hours a day, along with other recorded telephone services. New York Telephone has time, weather, sports reports, Dow Jones, kiddie stories, even psychological advice.
And since calls to these numbers are at regular rates, the phone company makes a lot of money off them. In New York, in 1980, 299 million such calls were made. That's a staggering number. And recently, the General Services Administration was staggered to find out that a lot of calls were being made by federal employees from official phones, to the tune of $3,000 a month in the New York area alone. At that rate, Dial-A-Joke is not so funny, GSA thinks, and the taxpayer is taking a trimming.
Casey went to the barber. He said, how much is a haircut? The barber said, £5. He said, how much is a shave? And the barber said, £2. He says, right, shave me head.
New York Telephone Company says it would be happy to install a screening device to prevent such calls from being placed from government office phones. However, the device will cost the government $107,000. GSA thinks the phone company must be joking.
The real joke, of course, is on the taxpayer. Here it is, St. Patrick's Day. The way things are going, it doesn't look as if this will all be straightened out between now and April Fool's Day. Charles Osgood, CBS News, New York.
That's our report this St. Patrick's Day. Until tomorrow, Dan Rather, CBS News. Good night.
Captain Gustav Niebaum sailed from Europe with a taste for adventure and a taste for fine wine. In 1879, he chose the Napa Valley, California for his great winery, Inglenook, a winery still known for its commitment to uncompromising taste. Come, taste Captain Niebaum's dream. Inglenook, the proud taste of California.
When we tell you Michelin radials last and last...
Well, that's no surprise.
When we tell you Michelin radials save gas...
That's no surprise.
But when we tell you you can get Michelins for about the same price as other leading radials...
Now that's a surprise.
But it's true. We're America's fastest growing tire company. We make the tire you need at a price you can afford. See your Michelin dealer and prices set for your car. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Michelin. We put America on radials.
This has been the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
The struggle for El Salvador. Is America battling terrorism or sliding into another Vietnam? Dan Rather anchors a CBS News special report Tuesday night.
Tonight on CBS.
A brush fire in the Percy Priest area this afternoon threatened several homes before it's finally brought under control. Details coming up next on Eyewitness News.
Imagine the taste of natural maple and pure pork sausage. Now that's maple-flavored links from Tennessee Farm. Made from only the finest tenderloins, hams, and shoulders, blended with the flavor of natural maple. Once your family smells them sizzling in the pan, there'll never be an empty seat at your table. Or choose our family recipe, mild or hot whole hog sausage.